I guess he really was the Lorax. Shudder's Nightborn is out now, so let's get into it. With dreams of starting a perfect family, Saga and her husband John moved to the isolated house deep in the Finnish forest where she spent much of her childhood. But as soon as their baby is born, Saga's joy is overshadowed by a chilling suspicion about their newborn. So this is a Finnish horror that comes from director Hanna Bergholm, who also directed the indie darling horror Hatchet. Now here, she once again tackles motherhood and looks at the themes of a mother's instinct, postpartum depression, gaslighting, disbelief, and also a healthy dose of good old-fashioned folklore. Sadie Harla and Rupert Grint star as Saga and John, creating this view of a loving couple who dream of raising family in Saga's grandmother's forest home. The landscapes are beautiful, but right from the start, we watch John see some strange imagery in the forest. And while most of us would audibly raise some suspicions, or at least questions, he just discounts the unsettling oddities and goes about life. Saga, on the other hand, she is right at home in the forest, loving the woods and almost being drawn to the moaning of the trees. Well, once they get pregnant and the baby arrives, things don't go nearly as smoothly as either parent would like. Now, I want to say this is a semi-slow burn, but the dreadful tension is there right from the beginning, and then it patiently increases. The editing skips us through time, but not in huge chunks, just enough to keep us from the day-to-day mundanities, which then allow us to get right into the distressing bits. And where I think a lot of this feels like it could be a patiently delivered story is through the lack of visuals we actually see when it comes to the newborn. For so much of the film, we may see a bit of its back or maybe its hands, but anytime we could see it in full, the head and face are obscured by shadow. And the filming takes a less is more approach and doesn't shoot its wad right at the start by giving us any sort of reveal. We see and hear, and the hearing part is disgusting, we are shown results of actions like breastfeeding that goes painfully wonky. And through the lack of direct visual, it adds a layer of foreboding or tension because we can only imagine what's actually going on to create the resulting imagery. The psychological aspect of this movie is wild and dark. It focuses on Saga's mental state, but because we get to see what she's experiencing, it really feels as though everyone around her are really the ones in denial, refusing to listen to the child's mom when she says something's not right. Now sure, there are opportunities when Saga could have just let her husband, sister, and mom F around and find out by refusing to hide any strangeness. But because of their already pointed criticisms and blaming for the child's agitation and unrest on Saga, it's completely understandable that she'd continue to keep everything suppressed in the hopes that anything odd is just naturally going to resolve itself. And the idea of an unreliable narrator works in the storytelling's favor because while we see what Saga experiences, there's still the potential that it's all a result of depression. For the majority of the movie, nobody else really sees or experiences what she does, other than the incessant screaming of the baby. So it can be completely plausible that it's all created by her psyche. But for those that prefer a more solidified answer, we do get some concrete reveals that allow us to know if what's occurring is real or imagined. Now, the story uses a good balance of commentary and unease so that the messaging never feels preachy, but still maintains social critique that's wrapped in an ever-increasing spiral of apprehension. But for as great as the meaning and the visuals are, there is a lack of explanation for a lot of the lore. And I'm sure that as a Finnish person, or probably most from the Nordic countries, a lot of the folklore just doesn't need to be delved into. But as a dumb American who's unfamiliar, what I walk away with is a vague understanding of what was taking place around the family as these horrors begin to unfold. Now, some small mentions in the dialogue explain certain elements, like why there's so much junk piled around the home that the couple moves into, but it's discussed minimally at best. There's an opportunity here to have a small conversation between the couple that would feel organic and natural, given that John is a Brit and unfamiliar with the lore too. We don't need a full-on discussion of every detail and nuance, but I found myself trying to guess at some of the meanings because there was just a lack of background. And while this doesn't destroy the storytelling, I do think that a deeper sense of foreboding would have been felt with just some more context. Outside of that, though, the acting is enveloping, especially from Sadie Harla. She has to balance multiple aspects of a character so that we don't feel complete disdain for her, but also maintain concern, sympathy, even a bit of mistrust. And Harla accomplishes that by making Saga both unhinged and seemingly unreliable at times, and then also someone who's dismissed and belittled by her family. I felt for the character, and I wanted everyone else around her to see what she was experiencing so that they would have a change of perspective and heart. But for her own protection, she conceals the hardships, allowing those around her to believe that she's just spiraling into depression. or that she needs to take a break because her actions are harming the child. And with Rupert Grint, he starts off as this loving and understanding partner, but quickly transforms into someone who's easy to dislike. The short temper and dismissive attitudes are convincing, creating an emerging villain who may just need to take a walk into the gnarly forest and possibly not return. Grint's performance, it channels a little bit of the hubris and self-importance that he displayed in Servant, where he's a bit pompous, but still somehow maintaining a tiny bit of charisma. He's certainly not the star of the film, but as the opposing force within the marriage, he helps to create a distastefully powerful dynamic. Overall, I enjoyed Nightborn. It's atmospheric, ominous, and contains both visuals and sound design that can make your skin crawl and your stomach churn. The acting is strong with complex emotions and personalities, and even though the narrative creates tension and unease, the story could benefit from better background on the supporting folklore. This isn't scary, but it is uncomfortable and haunting. There's sex, nudity, a little profanity, and then a bunch of violence. I give Nightborn 4 out of 5 couches. Okay, so what are some excellent films that use folklore as their basis? I would love to get some of your recommendations in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.